the deadline passed at 9 o'clock with Rain Bank, the merchant bank of New York, and that was the close of business on Eastern Standard Time. We didn't hear anything from them on the record, but clearly a lot has come out, either off the record or from the various parties involved in this process. So we're led to believe that sort of half a dozen or so bids were officially registered. And from that, there seems to be a bit of a geographical split between them. There's a pretty strong groundswell from the United States, the Todd Boehly-led consortium. Of course, he has done wonders really with the LA baseball team, and he's backed significantly by Hansjorg Wyss, a Swiss billionaire. And they've got various others involved in that consortium too, to bring sort of fan representation onto the group, including Daniel Finkelstein, who's got government links and very heavily involved in stats and data, as you can read in his Times column. Barbara Sharone, who's obviously got a PR background with some very famous clients. And then you move on to the Chicago Cubs, Ricketts family. They own the Cubs, and what they've done at Wrigley Field will really strike a chord, I'm sure, with many because of the stadium redevelopment issues at Stamford Bridge. They come with great financial backing as well, and so that's an interesting one. Again, some fan links when you move on to some of the other bids as well, such as the UK sort of groundswell, and that would bring into play Sir Martin Broughton, very renowned British businessman, and he's partnered up with Sebastian Coe. They're both big Chelsea fans, and Sir Martin Broughton's got sort of relative experience in this sort of situation when he oversaw the sale of Liverpool, where he was chairman for a bit, which was the biggest debtor there was the Royal Bank of Scotland. So there are government links too. And then you look at Nick Candy, who Darren mentioned. And then there are some others too. There have been lots of reports around Saudi Media Group. We don't know the exact status of that bid. And I think there was one from Turkey with a businessman who said he was going to have the flag of Turkey flying over London, but that his bid did not manage to get through to the right email address. So it's a bit of a runners and riders, and this was all played out on the day of the Cheltenham Gold Cup in quite similar fashion. But there is a serious note to this. This is taking place because of Roman Abramovich having his asset frozen, and that's in relation to alleged links to Vladimir Putin, which he denies. But Chelsea are in an incredibly perilous financial situation if this continues for much longer, and that's why Rain Bank want to get this sorted as soon as possible. It still has to go through various procedures, notably the owners and directors test, once the candidates are whittled down to, we think, in the coming days, maybe 3, 4. And then Chelsea in due course should have new owners. And one party that I'm sure we'll come to talk about is True Blues Consortium, who are trying to position themselves as like a bolt-on to represent the fans in this. And John Terry and Claire Rafferty of Chelsea playing fame have added their voice to that one. The Chelsea Pitch Owners and Supporters Trust have supported it in principle too. Sorry for the very long answer.
We have you on because you do it beautifully. Look, you touched on it then. How long then do you think, if the Chelsea fans are watching now, when will this be resolved, do you think?
Yeah, well, Rain Bank have expressed some optimism that they can get this done by the end of March. I don't know if that would be completed, very unlikely now because we're getting on into the latter part of the month, but certainly maybe a deal in place or an agreement that can go forward to the due diligence process, the owners and directors test. There are various issues that need to be resolved. Rob Draper writes in the Mail on Sunday about this debt that Roman Abramovich of £1.5 billion intends to write off. He doesn't want to call for it back, whether that's going to be allowed under financial fair play rules, because QPR tried to do something similar and the EFL were having none of it. That's one issue here. Where is the money going to go from the sale? We think that will be into a frozen bank account because this is still Roman Abramovich's club, and it's not a seized asset. He has said to hand it over to sort of charitable cause for victims of the war, and the government are adamant that he won't be seeing any of this. But technically speaking, if he sees this process out and sanctions are lifted, then it may be his money to decide where it goes. In the meantime, the sale can obviously go through, but that has a bearing on future sort of finances. So it's going to be a very closely scrutinized process. Rain Bank in conjunction with the British government. They then need to do the owners and directors test, which is currently under review, but I don't think it's going to be amended in time for this takeover to go through. They may look to do that at the Premier League shareholders meeting in the summer and add in a human rights element, which really should have been a part of it already, many of us would feel. And so these processes are not normally quick, Vicky. They take a lot of time, as we saw with Newcastle, for example, although some more historically have been more rapid. And I don't think we're going to see a repeat of Newcastle here, because the interested parties seem to have, from what we can see, a relatively clean background and satisfy the government on a number of issues, such as they seem to be raising the possibility of fan involvement. There's talk of golden shares, which was a key part of Tracy Crouch's fan-led review into English football ownership. And so I think they'll be looking to move this on swiftly. In the Daily Telegraph, they were reporting that the Boehly-led group would be ready to go for Chelsea's next league match after the international break. So I think it's fair to say in the coming days we will hear some quite significant, progress reports on who the final candidates are, and then that process needs to take place with haste. So maybe the next couple of weeks. And then we should know. And it's critical for Chelsea, because if this isn't sorted soon, there's that risk that they could go insolvent, because they are under such onerous restrictions from the UK government, and they're burning through money, as any football club would do when they've not got any ability to rely on their owner, which they've done more than any other English club in recent history.
Last week that it takes £1 million just to keep them ticking over on a daily basis. Look, let's turn our attentions to Manchester United, because of course Thomas Tuchel had been linked with potentially going there in the summer. He's basically played all that down and said, he's staying put at the moment at Chelsea. Any news of what will happen with the permanent managerial position at United?
Yeah, I think Thomas Tuchel was somebody that would appeal to Manchester United. He would appeal to many other clubs around the world if he was available, and he's not available. He's manager of Chelsea. He's under contract, I think, until 2024. He wants to stay there, and if things work out and the new ownership wants him to stay and he wants to be a part of it, then I'm sure that relationship will continue. If it doesn't work out, or they don't want him to be a part of it, or he doesn't want to be a part of it, then things could change. But they won't change quick enough, I don't think, for Manchester United, who are trying to wrap up their managerial process as soon as possible. I reported earlier this month that they want to do it in the coming weeks, ideally by the end of March. And that's why they were speeding up the process. They were meeting candidates, whittling down their shortlist, and hoping to get a chosen candidate in place as soon as possible, so that next manager can be a key part of the decision-making process around squad building for next season and beyond, and also the transfer window, which will be crucial to Manchester United in terms of incomings, outgoings. They'll have to presumably build a new coaching team as well. And that's why Mauricio Pochettino and Erik ten Hag, in no particular order, have emerged as the key candidates. And there may be a couple of others too. I reported that Julian Lopetegui and Luis Enrique were candidates who were really admired by Manchester United. But those two, Pochettino and Ten Hag, have really come to the fore. And it would surprise me if it wasn't one of those now. But in terms of who it's going to be, that largely depends on who you speak to, because many people are suggesting that Ten Hag is the right one for United, and he's got a relatively low release clause at Ajax. It would be quite clean and simple to do. He wouldn't bring many staff with him, and he's got admirers among the United hierarchy. And then you've got Pochettino, who's the one who's been linked with United for so long. There's a feeling that he may well be leaving PSG after they missed out in the Champions League yet again. He's said to be admired by Sir Alex Ferguson, which could still hold some sway. There are suggestions that he is the chosen candidate of the Manchester United dressing room. Make of that what you will. And that he's got experience of managing at this sort of big club, very top level within Europe's top leagues. But he equally hasn't won the sort of trophies that Manchester United would be looking to win. Neither has Erik ten Hag, but he's had repeated success with Ajax and taken them sort of beyond their expectations in the Champions League too. So I think it's a two-way battle, most likely. And I think we're going to learn the outcome of it pretty soon.